is over.
Brahma.
Right?
Lord Brahma also.
Yeah, Satyaj.
Yeah, he also wanted to test Krishna.
Yeah.
That envy is different, I think. That envy is what
It's a leela.
it's different than what we think of envy is.
Yeah.
Definitely
But
it's
here between Indra and Prithu Maharaj, they became
Competitive.
and say, like I will do like
More.
this. It's a sign of enviousness. May not be envy like in a harsh way, but it's still enviousness. Like I want to be better than you, saying like it's all envy. So in the Brahma Samhita also, right, that Yastu Indra Gopamata Indra Mahosa Karma Bandhanurupa Palavajanmatana Karmani Vedati Kintu Chabhakti Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So only through devotion you can burn the fruitive desires for fruitive activities and all of them. All the karma, everything, only through devotion. Otherwise you can't do it in any other way. All of us have so much karma from previous life. Doesn't mean that Indra doesn't have so much karma, we have more than him. Like, it's not everybody. So everyone has many levels of reactions. So, as a devotee, once you become a pure devotee, all these past things don't affect you so much. If it affects you, it is maybe because Krishna may want to test us. That's about it. So, Prabhupada says for devotee, your past karma is nullified. If you are following very sincerely. So when they say in this prayer that Prithu Maharaj achieved by past deeds, then people will think it's like he is doing pious activities. So therefore, we shouldn't think like that. So there's no question in the case of Prithu Maharaj that he is like an ordinary man. No, in his case it's because he is a pure devotee. And therefore he could achieve all these things. And because of this, people cannot understand. Because both persons may look like an ordinary person. But one person is a pure devotee. And the other person is an ordinary sense enjoyer or materialist. They may do the same activity, same thing. But one is doing it with the Lord in his heart, the other one is doing with himself in his heart. That's the difference. So one creates karma, the other one does not create karma. He is our karma. Okay. The one who doesn't follow scriptures and does nonsense, he is creating the karma. Okay. So similarly, Prabhupada says people misunderstand incarnations of Supreme Personality of Godhead to be ordinary men. So then he quotes that Avajananti Mahamudra. Krishna says, which is same when Shishupal was looking at Krishna and says, you are a cowherd boy. Somehow you become so expert in fighting. Get out from here, you're not royalty like that. Very arrogant in his view. So he got his head chopped off. So and sometimes you see, right, even an ordinary man like Gandhi and all, even though they did great wonders, they will say, oh, they are saintly person, Mahatma. They keep titles there. But that's not a real Mahatma. It's not like that. And you give a few more 100 years, they'll call him Avatar. They will promote them. They already did that in Sai Baba and the Swaminarayan. Right? He was a propounder of that movement, but they made him into God. Right. Higher than Krishna.
Akshardham.
And Aksharadham is nothing there.
It is almost contemporary to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
They say it's contemporary.
No, he is 300 years back. but they made him like
promoted
Chaitanya
him
Mahaprabhu.
higher than Krishna.
They followed exactly like our system.
But here in the paragraph later it says, it's Rupa Goswami, right? Actually, Sanatana
Sanatana
Goswami
Goswami.
declares, means he actually established Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Karma.
Yeah.
And Mahaprabhu never said that.
Mahaprabhu never said.
But other Swaminarayan such people may say that to us also same thing. You guys established.
Yeah. But you see, you have to go through the proper way of understanding what is
Scripture.
stated in scripture, what is revealed in scripture.
Yeah.
So based on Jiva Goswami's Tattva Sandarbhas and all, the Sat Sandarbha, he definitely proves that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself.
I don't know enough of their scriptures, how
Yeah.
they established.
I looked
No,
up.
they don't have any.
They
like
don't
we,
have
we,
any.
all scriptures, they all agree it has to be from Vyasadeva. But those people like them, they don't have any contemporary or anybody.
Akshardham means actually Vaikuntha. That's what it is.
No, they don't say it's like.
Akshara, there is no other.
For them, Akshara
It's
is
like Goloka.
It's not even Goloka, it's nothing.
Akshara is indestructible actually, the meaning of Akshara is
no good. No sorry, nothing.
Yeah, but their understanding is that it's
Impersonal.
nothing, impersonal. Of course, there are variations on that. So if you ask some of them, they'll say it's Vaikuntha. And so it's like that.
प्रभुपाद ये भी कहते हैं कि सनातन गोस्वामी proved it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. In Bhagavatam itself, there is a verse for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that
Krishna
will
Varnam
appear as a
Krishna
Shachi
Krishna.
Putra. But there is no such verse. I
No, in
don't know-
Mahabharata.
It's in Bhagavatam.
Vishnu Sahasranam.
Which one?
That the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu
That's
said
in
that I will
Bhagavatam.
appear
Yeah.
as a Shachi
The
Putra.
golden avatar.
As a
No,
Krishna
he didn't say Sachiputra.
No, it's not mentioned.
That reference is there in many scriptures, like there is
There is
about
Chaitanya
20 or
Upanishad.
24 or 25 places in different scriptures. They have said like clues, they have given hints
In
of Chaitanya
different
Mahaprabhu's appearance.
Upanishads,
Upanishads.
basically in the Vedas and all, they say about his advent. So only an intelligent person can see that. Anyone else who reads will get confused, will not understand who the reference is about.
Right, but then I'm saying that Swami Narayan.
There is no- there is
No,
such
that's what
thing.
we are saying.
Yeah.
They don't. It's not in the Bhagavad.
And I think so in 11th canto, I don't remember, but when I started my Bhagavad Gita class, Balram Leela Prabhu showed me that reference, 11th canto.
Yeah. That's like Krishna Varnam.
Tushar
Krishna
Krishna.
Sangopanga,
Sangopanga
Sangopanga.
Krishna Krishna to Maharaj Abhi did this in Tattva Sandarbha. Krishna.
Yeah.
That
Was-
is
Yeah. So based on that, Jiva Goswami explains. Not just on one reference, many references.
Many references.
Then they say
are
this makes sense. It only refers to one person, and that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Like Gopala Tapani Upanishad refers to him taking the sannyas and going out, and Mahabharata has a few references taking that in the future he'll take sannyas and stuff like that. So based on that, they can say this is the person. But we don't have references for
Swami.
it's basically like Jesus never said he's God, but now they all say he's God. But then he's son of God, like that. So similarly, Swaminarayan has been promoted to God.
Somebody is asking Jayadvaita Swami in a class,
Yeah.
Jawari temple, that he never claimed himself to be God, but his
Yeah.
followers say that. So the Maharaj criticized him. That means he didn't teach his followers right.
Yeah.
That's why why are they doing that? So I was
Maybe
like,
sometimes things happen after they die, they promote the person to Godhead.
For Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there are references in Kurma Purana, Garuda Purana.
Yeah.
Brahmanda Purana, you
This
have
Narasimha
Brahmanda
Purana, Padma Purana.
Okay.
Garuda, Narada Purana.
over 100
26,
references.
around 26
Yeah.
places we have
Brahma
references.
Over 100 references.
A lot actually.
Agni Purana, Matsya Purana, Vayu Purana.
Prabhu, where are you looking?
Nitai Veda. Nitai
Yeah,
Veda
divinity he
.com.
revealed to his Ramananda
Nitai Veda .com.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and so on.
There was also the Mahaprakash.
There is a Mahaprakash Lila.
So he did reveal himself. But even in revelation won't be accepted by people because in modern theology they argue what we perceive to be a mass hallucination and stuff like that. So it's kind of tricky. So we always base it on Shastra. right? So you see the references all from Shastra. They do not say so and so said, therefore we accept, like that, never. But he did show, he revealed his form to those personalities.
We heard from Jayatara Swami also that even Lord Ram is saying that in future he will appear
He will
as
come as a second
might be in the Ramayana.
Yeah, he tells
You know,
that to
that
his
is
wife.
what was discussed in that Sandarbha. This Twish Krishna verse, you must have heard it. Sridhar Swami said that this is for Lord Rama, and the same verse Jiva Goswami said that that is for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Same verse, but translated in a different form.
Yajna
Both are
Sankirtan.
correct.
Both are correct, yes.
That's not the Krishna. That's the other word. Tektavasa Krishna. It's a different place.
Yeah.
But
Twish, Krishna, Twisha,
Shivana
Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
It can be, it's a compound word, it can be broken into two different forms.
I'm not
Not
into
a Sanskrit scholar.
Thanks.
Three.
Twish, Krishna, Twisha, Krishna. Yeah. It's a very beautiful.
Yeah. Well, anyway, nice to hear that the classes. Maharaj has it online, so you all can hear. Text to all. Sarvatrash Kalitadeshah Saptadvipaik Dandadrik Anyatra Brahmana Kulat
Anyatra Brahmana Kulat
Anyatra Achyuta Gotrata
Anyatra Achyuta Gotrata.
Achyuta Gotra. That's our Vamsa. Maharaj Prithu was an unrivaled king and possessed the scepter for ruling all the 7 islands on the surface of the globe. No one could disobey his irrevocable orders, but the saintly persons, the Brahmanas and descendants of the Supreme Personal Godhead, the Vaishnavas. So in general, everyone will listen except for these few people.
Brahmanas. Because they also propose.
Or they propose some suggestions.
They guide him.
Right.
Like that. Prabhupada says he ruled over the 7 great islands or continents or circles. So then he says this is the islands or continents. You can see Asia, Europe, Africa, North America, South America, Australia and Oceania. Could be Antarctica.
Arctic and Antarctic.
Mm-hmm.
Arctic and Antarctic together. The ocean.
No, Arctic don't
There's
have
no
any
leaf.
land. Antarctica.
Antarctica.
In the modern age, people are under the impression that during the Vedic period or prehistoric ages, America and many other parts had not been discovered. But that is not a fact. Based on this statement, Prabhupada says it's not a fact. So, he says the country where Prithu Maharaj resided must have been India because it is stated in 11th verse of this chapter, he lived in the tract of land between the rivers Ganges and Yamuna. This tract of land, which is called Brahma Varta, consists of what is known in the modern age as portions of Punjab and northern India. It is clear the kings of India once ruled all the world and their culture was Vedic. So the order that he issued were for all the people except for saintly person. So they don't need to be told what to do. Okay, like that. But our relationship is always with Krishna. So therefore we are Achyuta Gotra. When Prabhupada, they asked, right, when they initiating some this, Prabhupada told them to say they are Achyuta Gotra. When they go to different temples in India, they ask, they ask Prabhupada what Gotra you are. He said Achyuta Gotra. Actually his Gotra is Gautam. Gautam. So in a sense, he's our grand spiritual. We are all in the same Gotra. But in reality, we are all Achyuta Gotra. Materially you can say I'm this and that, but in reality we are all children of God. That's what Prabhupada says. You have to become that. So he never imposed any rules on the Brahmana society. Why? Because they were all saintly and they followed the rules to the book very nice. So he didn't have to say anything to them. So whenever he passed some judgment or rules, it for the common people's benefit. So this verse from Padma Purana, it says, one who thinks a deity in the temple to be made of wood or stone, who thinks of the spiritual master in the disciplic succession as an ordinary man, who thinks the Vaishnava in the Achyuta Gotra to belong to a certain caste or creed, or who thinks of Charnamrita or Ganges water as ordinary water, is taken to be a resident of hell. Okay? So that means you have to develop a consciousness to see this in the proper perspective. It's all a matter of consciousness. If your consciousness is not there, you cannot see the person as a belonging to Achyuta Gotra. And this is in reference to people in Jagannath Puri and so on. Like that. Even in South, some place you can't go. So you're not of this, you cannot come. So if you don't want to be controlled by a king or society, you have to become a pure devotee. So then you're always under Krishna's control.
And it is also that because he's the Kshatriya role, he was taking advice from the Brahmanas and saying
Yeah, which is possible also, yeah. So he doesn't take he takes instructions from the general. But the point is that he sends out the instructions for the population, but not for them. Because they already are at that high stage. They don't need to be guided like the other varnas. 13. Ekadasin Mahasatra
Ekadasin Mahasatra
Diksha Tatra Divaukasham Samajo Brahma Rishinam Cha Raja Rishinam Cha Sattama. Once upon a time, King Prithu initiated the performance of a very great sacrifice in which great saintly sages, Brahmanas, demigods from higher planetary systems, and great saintly kings known as Raja Rishis all assembled together. Text 14. Tasmin arhatsu sarveshu Swarchiteshu yatarhataha Uttita sadasso madhye Taranam udurat iva. In that great assembly, Maharaj Prithu first of all worshipped all the respectable visitors according to their respective positions. After this, he stood up in the midst of the assembly, and it appeared that the full moon had arisen amongst the stars. So he is very effulgent also, it appears. Text 15. Ramshutina yata bujo Gora kanjare nikshana Sunasha samukha samya Dinam sa sudvijaya smita King Prithu's body was tall and sturdy, and his complexion was fair. His arms were full and broad, and his eyes as bright as the rising sun. His nose was straight, his face very beautiful, and his personality great. His teeth were set beautifully in his smiling face. Prabhupada says, it's interesting also, that among the four social orders, the Kshatriyas, both men and women, are generally very beautiful because they have more passion. So it should be concluded not only were Maharaj Prithu's bodily features attractive as described here, but he had all auspicious signs in his bodily construction because he's also a Maha Bhagavat. So there's another interesting point. The face is the index of the mind, Prabhupada says. So he says one's mental constitution is exhibited by his facial features. So if they are scared, you can see in the face. Anxious, anxiety, sadness, happiness, all. The bodily features of a particular person are exhibited in accordance with his past deeds. According to one's past deeds, his next bodily features, whether in human society, animal society, or demigod society, are determined. So you can see in this life what you were previously. That's what it is. Or what you desired. Text 16. Vyudhavaksha brihatshoni
Vyudhavaksha brihatshoni
Valivalgudalodaraha
Valivalgudalodaraha
Avartanavir Ochasvi
Avartanavir
Kanchanoru Udagrapad
Kanchanoru Udagrapad.
The chest of Maharaj Prithu was very broad, his waist was very thick, and his abdomen, wrinkled by lines of skin, resembled in construction a leaf of a banyan tree. His navel was coiled and deep, his thighs were of a golden hue, and his instep was arched. So it's not flat-footed. Anyway, these are all auspicious signs. Text 17. Sukshma Vakrasita Snigdha
Sukshma Vakrasita Snigdha
Muddaja Kambu Kandara
Muddaja Kambu Kandara
Mahadane Dukulagre
Mahadane Dukulagre
Paridayo Pavaiyacha
Paridayo Pavaiyacha.
The black slick hair on his head was very fine and curly, and his neck, like a conch shell, was decorated with auspicious lines. He wore a very valuable dhoti, and there was a nice wrapper on the upper part of his body. Vyanjita Shesha Gatra Shri
Vyamjita Shesha Gatra Sri
Niyame Anyasta Bhushanaha
Niyame Anyasta Bhushana
Krishna Jinadara Shriman
Krishna Vinadhara Sriman
Kushapani Kritochita.
Vrashani Krichochita.
As Maharaj Prithu was being initiated to perform the sacrifice, he had to leave aside his valuable dress, and therefore his natural bodily beauty was visible. It was very pleasing to see him put on a black deer skin and wear a ring of kusha grass on his ring, for this increased the natural beauty of his body. It appears that Maharaj Prithu observed all the regulatory principles before he performed the sacrifice. He was very careful how he was performing his duties. Text 19. Shishira Snigdata Raksha Samekshata Samantata
Samekshata Samantata
Uchivanidam Urvisha
Uchivanidam Urvisha
Sada Samharshayaniva.
Sada Samharshayaniva.
Just to encourage the members of the assembly and to enhance their pleasure, King Prithu glanced over them with eyes that seemed like stars in the sky wet with dew. He then spoke to them in a great voice. Means he was very, not only comparing, he had a lot of affection and love for others. Text 20. Charuchitra padam shlakshnam
Charuchitra padam shlakshnam
Vristam guddham aviklavam
Vristam gudram aviklavam
Sarvesham upakaratam
Sarvesham upakaratam
Tada anuvadaniva. Maharaj Prithu's speech was very beautiful, full of metaphorical language, clearly understandable and very pleasing to hear. His words were all grave and certain. It appears that when he spoke, he expressed his personal realization of the absolute truth in order to benefit all who were present. So again, even when he is speaking, he is always connecting to the Supreme Lord. So in our dealings, we should always see that. Somehow, even when you're working, in your heart you connect with Krishna, then externally you are working like that. Text 21. Raju, yeah.
No, Krishna was telling Mamanusmara Yudhyaja to Arjuna
Yeah,
also.
Mamas. Think of me always. Rajo Vacha
Raja
Sabya Srinuta Badram Va
Sabya Srimata Bandhava
Sadhavo Yahi Hagataha
Sadhu Yagata
Satsu Jigna Subhi Dharmam
Sasujya Subhir Dharmam
Avedyam Swamanishitam.
Avedyam Swamanishitam.
King Prithu said, O gentle members of the assembly, may all good fortune be upon you. May all of you great souls who have come to attend this meeting kindly hear my prayer attentively. A person who is actually inquisitive must present his decision before an assembly of noble souls. So all these people are very highly elevated and exalted. So therefore he addresses them as Sadhava. They are very advanced personalities. Okay? And another point is they are not envious people. Okay? So therefore when you want to ask something, you should approach a person who is not envious of you. Then they will guide you properly. The person is envious of you, they are not going to give you their proper instruction or their blessings like that. So Prabhupada writes, Prithu Maharaj was great. He must have had several enemies present in the assembly, although they could not express themselves. Maharaj Prithu, however, was concerned with persons who were gentle, and therefore he first addressed all the honest persons, not caring for the envious. So that's another thing we can learn also, right? You present, you speak to the audience, and if you know the envious people, you speak to you praise all the good people and good qualities, then you praise those bad people with their good qualities. So he was addressing the sages because they are well-wishers. Text 22. Aham Ganda Daro Raja
Aham Ganda Raja
Prajanam Iha Yojitaha
Prajanam Iha Yojitaha
Shita Vrittida Sveshu
Rakshita Vrittida Sveshu
Setushu Stapita Prita.
Setushu Stapita Prita.
King Prithu continued, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, I have been appointed the king of this planet, and I carry the scepter to rule the citizens, protect them from all danger, and give them employment according to their respective positions in the social order established by Vedic injunctions. So Varnashram Dharma is very important. By using them, one can move up in their consciousness from the mode of ignorance to mode of goodness. So even a Shudra can worship Krishna very nicely if the system is followed very nice. So a ruler must know all this system to help, right? If you are a parent, you must at least know what you are parenting, or who you are parenting, and why you are parenting. If you don't know that, then you don't know what the goal for the child is, and the child wouldn't know what my goal in life is also. So similarly for kings are also the same thing. They must know why they are ruling, for what purpose, how they are guiding the the commoners that are under them. So it's very important. And the king has to explain this connection between the living entities and the Supreme Lord, and the connection between him and his subservient personalities or people. So they understand that he is representing Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's doing it on behalf of the Supreme Person, not otherwise. So it's very important to know those principles. Once you know those principles, then you can act on those principles, right? Otherwise, how can the king rule if he doesn't know these principles? Okay. So therefore, you can see how Ritu Maharaj ensured that everybody is in their proper respective position, and he also mentioned that they are free from danger. Okay. Oftentimes, you want to do something, you're afraid, so you don't do it. Here, because of his ability to give assurance to people, they were free from fear, and they were always protected.
Prabhu, what is the essence? This is such a long about King Prithu we have been reading. I just came, this is my second, third class, but definitely previous chapters were also based on that. So what is the essence? What is this chapter teaches us, that how the king should be?
It is, part of the Bhagavatam covers many things.
Yeah.
So in King Prithu's life, you see how he conducted himself as a ruler and an administrator. So similarly, we cannot just think only a ruler and administrator. Some of the activities it does also relates to our behavior in our own. A leader, you can say, he generally for us, leader means president of the United States, but it also means within your own family situation also, right? You are a leader for your children. And then you are a leader for your neighbors and so on, if you have more knowledge and things like that, right? When people come to ask you, then you are in a sense acting like a authority. So that authority must have some standard, some values. So we can see when they have, as in the life of Prithu Maharaj, he has a standard and a purpose, but that is all coming from the Vedic proper understanding of the Vedic knowledge. Being a devotee makes one the best leader, the best king, the best father, etc. Like that. Yeah. So you can also see that. And the second, you see his behavior also, how he behaved in different situations, and what he did as a devotee and as a king. Okay? So those also you can reflect on that and say how I can be a good mother, a good devotee like that, or a good mother and devotee. So all these are for us to actually study our own situation in reflection with Prithu Maharaj's situation. We can just say, this is the king, I am this, I don't have connection. But actually you can see so many relevant points are there. So many parallel instructions for us. So the Bhagavatam is for us to come to the point of understanding how different pure devotees in different situations, how they actually executed Krishna consciousness. So we cannot say my situation is different. Right? After studying their life, you can say, okay, I have some similarities here and there. So you employ those things. But in all cases, you have to understand you are the spirit soul. And your goal is to
serve Krishna.
So here's one way of serving Krishna. One person who did it and become successful. So he was successful, so you can also be successful. His position is so much more difficult than your position. Right? So therefore you cannot
cannot say we can't.
Cannot complain later on, I have so much. Okay? So Prithu Maharaj is protecting every living entity in his domain or in his planet, free from anxiety. All living entities are protected and they have enough food to eat. Like in the case of King CB, right? When he was performing some austerity, a hawk was chasing after a pigeon, and the pigeon came and said, "Please protect me." And then the hawk tell the king, "You also my king. You also protect me." And the king was like, "What? I also have to eat. I have a family and so." So then the pigeon was saying, if I die, then my family also will be. So then the king said, "Okay, I will give portion of my flesh to you, to the hawk, and then you can." So he actually gave protection. So then the pigeon and the hawk revealed themselves to be Brahma.
They were demigods.
Demigods. They were testing him. So it's like that. You have to show that you genuinely practice, means you will go to the end. Not when the situation gets difficult, you drop the rules and regulations. No, all the way.
See, that's when king and somebody in the position is tested.
Yeah. He's
Tough times.
Tough times. So different. We also will have tough situations. So are you going to hold on to Krishna or give up Krishna when the time gets tough? When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. But then if you give up, then what is the point?
Test failed.
Huh?
Test failed.
Yeah, test fail, restart, take a birth again. Right. So yeah, so King Prithu was very kind to every living entity, including the animals. So that is real protection. Of course, the king also had to kill the animals, so that the saintly people, sages who live in the mountains and so are not harassed by the wild animals. So that is their job. Text 23. Tasyametat anustana
Tasyametat anustana
Yanahu brahmavadinaha
Yanahu brahmavadinaha
Lokasyu kama sandoha
Lokasyu kama sandoha
Yasya tushyati distadrik. Maharaj Prithu said, I think that upon the execution of my duties as king, I shall be able to achieve the desirable objectives described by experts in Vedic knowledge. This destination is certainly achieved by the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the seer of all destiny. So here the throat gets dry after a while. Right. Brahmavadina means they know
Brahman.
Experts in Vedic knowledge.
right. They know about Brahman, which refers to Vedic knowledge. They know, they become expert. So not everybody can claim to say they are Brahmavadina. That means they know the ins and outs. Even for us, right, we cannot say we are Brahmavadina. We can say Prabhupada is. Right? By his mercy, we understand what to do and what not to do. So in the same way, he's thanking those people who are experts in the knowledge of the Vedas, so they can guide him like that. So similarly for us, to be successful, we have to follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada through Guru Parampara. And then whatever we execute is perfect, because that's the criteria. So this is again another instruction, right? It's connecting to our own particular circumstances. It's not just doing whimsically. It's always been guided by some higher authority. And that higher authority is the sages. Like that, yeah. So, Prabhupada quotes this verse from the first canto. Ata pumniji desveta varnashram vibhavita sanisthitasya dharmasya samsidi haritosha. Haritosha. That's the bottom line. It should be pleasing to the Lord. Whatever we do, in whatever ashram situation you are in, your goal is to please Hari.
Hari.
That is what we should always think. Every day you should think like that. Yes, I'm doing my duty. I hope Krishna is pleased with that, like that. So always evaluate at the end of the day and see that you are doing it properly. And then you will be protected. Right? So much responsibility sometimes devotees take up, but then if they don't think carefully, they may not be protected because they can make mistakes, make offenses like that. So one has to be always reflective and say, did I do it properly? And then, tweak it better and better and become perfect.
So what is an example of taking a responsibility and not doing it?
Okay, so you are in charge of book distribution, then you don't even do any book distribution. Right? Then you have 10 people under you. Then you tell them, okay, go and do book distribution. Then you stay at home or you don't bother. You don't even check whether you have inventory, stuff like that. All these are responsibilities. Rather, a person like in yourself, you should make sure you have enough. There's a marathon going on. How many average per day? So 30 days, so many. Plus 10% in case we distribute more. So that's your inventory should be there. Then you check on each individual, call on them when they are doing books and say, how are you doing? Do you need any prasadam? Do you want me to bring? That's the duty you should be doing. Yeah. Right? So that's the difference between one who's doing and one who's not taking responsibility. Text 24. Yayudhare karam raja
Yayudhare karam raja
Prajadharmeshva sikshayam
Prajadharmeshva sikshayam
Janam shamalam bhukte
Prajanam samalam bhunte
Bhagam cha swam jahati saha.
Bhagam cha swam jahati saha.
Any king who does not teach his citizens about their respective duties in terms of varna and ashrama, but who simply exacts tolls and taxes from them, is liable to suffer for the impious activities which have been performed by the citizens. In addition to such degradation, the king also loses his own fortune. Same king or parents, you can just substitute king to parent. Any parent does not teach his children about their respective duties, they also suffer. So, a king, a governor, a president, a parent, you should not occupy this position if you are not going to teach your children. So in the 5th canto, Rishabdev says the same thing. One should not be a father or mother, authority, a demigod, this and that, if you are not going to give them the knowledge about
Krishna consciousness.
That's very important. Otherwise, the people will commit sinful activities. Otherwise, the child would commit sinful activities out of ignorance. And therefore, you are responsible. And therefore, this very statement says, liable to suffer for the impious activities. So, the laws of nature are very subtle. This is karma. Very, very subtle and very difficult to understand. Prabhupada says, for example, if one eats in a place which is very sinful, right? You go to McDonald's and buy salad. It shares in the resultant reaction of the sinful activities performed there. So every day there's 1,000 people coming to eat. And you're going to share that reaction. Subway, right? All kinds of it. People think it's okay, it's not okay because karma is very, very subtle, very subtle. You smile at somebody, there also is karma exchange.
Really?
Yes, everything you do there's karma. You think what? You think there's no karma involved? Every single action there is a reaction. Everything. Therefore, This place is Padam Padam Vi Padam. You have to be very careful. Okay? So therefore, we only cook prasadam at home. We don't eat outside. And then the system Prabhupada says is the grihasthas cook, open the back door and or front door and shout prasadam, prasadam, prasadam. No, nowadays they cook very nicely and lock the door. No, but actually the old system it was like that. In the old village like that. And so not just one person will be shouting, many Vaishnavas will be asking people to come, because there are many people who have given up the life and they become mendicants and so on. So for them, they have no choice but such beneficiaries as grihasthas, householders. They cook and feed them like that. And then in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says, prasadam is like a inoculation. It immunizes you from sinful things. So similarly, Prabhupada quotes that also. Again, Prabhupada says, but it's not the duty of rigid Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to accept invitations everywhere. So not just because everybody is calling you, you go and eat. Even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't go and eat at everyone's home. He was very selective. He says, I will only eat at the home of the Lakshapatis. Lakshapatis means one who are chanting 1 lakh 64 rounds of Harinam. Then he'll go and eat at their house. So we are all unqualified. So Mahaprabhu eats through Srila Prabhupada in our spiritual, that's all. Not through us directly. Anyway, what can we do? We can only cry and continue with our service. And then Prabhupada again makes it clear for us to understand. There is of course no objection to taking part in feasts in which prasada is distributed. As long as you distribute prasadam, you can participate in those kind of feasts.
So, if that is the case, then interaction with outsiders should be minimized. Because even if you smile, there is karma. Even if you open a door for somebody or they open a door for us, there is karma exchange.
Yes.
They are giving a glass of water, there is karma exchange.
Yes.
Right? So,
Even if we are
you
Krishna
restrict only
conscious, it
No, but
won't.
then how will one do preaching? That is
But I
just
think
one
That's
No.
Krishna conscious.
But we
You
should
are
not
protected.
You are
You
fully
do
Krishna
on behalf
conscious.
of Krishna, like Prithu Maharaj is saying, right? The Lord will protect. So when you smile at someone to preach and all, at that time you are
Should not
protected. So therefore you have to be always.
Krishna
But Prabhu, in
conscious.
office we don't preach, right? We stay with them, but we don't
Yeah, but
preach.
your activity
Preaching is
while
not
you
just
working.
talking, right? Preaching is not just talking. Sorry.
No, because I'm talking, you're talking. You say what you want to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, preaching is not just talking, it's our behavior and
Okay. Yeah, preaching is also not talking, behavior also. Yeah. So you can behave very nicely to them. Talking, you see, that's your duty to work. But what is the fruits of that duty? What are you going to do?
Yes, use it in Krishna
Yeah,
consciousness.
exactly. And then there's no karma. So therefore you need to understand the philosophy properly, then you can interact. So therefore you can be in the material world and not in the material world. Right? Yeah. It's not that you read about this, you are not going to talk to anybody. You go to office, you're like
karma.
the next day you can go home. They'll put you in the psychiatric ward and test this guy. Yeah. Therefore Prabhupada says not really, you can mix, but some ways you can associate it. You bring cookies, prasadam cookies, like office, you distribute them. So then people like you for giving cookies, and so they see you favorably, and every time they look at you, they're hoping for a cookie. So therefore they are connecting through prasadam. So therefore it's favorable. Right?
Just
Mahaprabhu has given us a blessing, right? Go be a guru.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. So you preach means you are on behalf of Mahaprabhu, you have preached, not on your own. So you're never going to preach otherwise. Prabhupada says there are many subtle laws which are practically unknown to people in general. But the Krishna conscious movement is very scientifically distributing all this Vedic knowledge for the benefit of the people of the world. So therefore we do it for the sake of preaching. That's all. And when you tell something, don't say something that is mind-boggling, that makes them, what is wrong with you? Say things that are practical, they can understand, okay, that makes sense. You don't tell them, oh, there are birds that fly from the sun planet to another planet laying eggs. That is, you are crazy guys. We have all the telescope and the sun, we don't see any bird. Like that. But anyway, yeah. Text 25, we will stop here.
Stop.
Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop.
we continue tomorrow. Yes,
But even if we say that we don't eat outside food, just within the Indian community at work, they put a big surprise face and says, "How do you guys live? It is impossible. Like, are you crazy? How do you live?" This kind of expressions they put.
And
Even
what
for
you
the
say?
simple thing, when we say, okay, we just cook food at home, we offer and eat prasadam. We don't buy anything. We don't eat outside. For that, they make it as a big thing, like
Yeah,
That's the culture, yeah.
Yeah.
Western culture is that.
yeah.
that. Even Indians, I'm telling you, those who have
Yes,
just
yeah.
come
Indians are Westerners.
few years back from India, they know that. And
But
they,
you have to answer very nicely and smiling and see, you're seeing me now, I'm very healthy. So why are you so surprised? If you want to know how to live like me in pure-hearted way, I will teach you. That will shut them down. Right? You can say this is a pure way. I find if I do it in a pure way, I become very compassionate to other living entities also, particularly the animals and so on. And you talk like that and see how they react. If they are Indians, they have some piety, they will shut up. They'll know you are right.
Some
Unless
of the
they've
people-
sold their soul. Right?
I had the experience. Some of them
Right.
actually, in my previous place at work, some of them actually came back. They talked to me, and then they used to always respect what I said. Some of them they know, and they avoided me
Right.
because they thought if I am with him, then I might have to change or
Yeah.
something. I don't want to change. I
Right.
want to keep my habits. So they used to purposefully avoid.
Yeah. So those people have lost their varna and ashram. And those people who come to you want to regain their varna and ashram. That's what it is. Because they don't know what their relationship is God, so they go further and further away. Those who are pious or purva karma, where they have associated with Krishna, they want to know what I should do. You know? So you have to encourage them in the most loving way and they will respond. Anyway, this, takes time also for purity to touch other people's heart. Or you can give Prabhupada's books. Say you read this, it will help you in the long term, it will help you. Maybe not immediately, but it will help for sure. Right? Alright, so we'll continue tomorrow at